and welcome to this video in which we're going to be looking at how we can use the concept of input, process, output within our Python programs. And hopefully you're familiar with this concept. Just very quickly, we covered it in the previous video and in your lesson, and hopefully you'll be okay with the idea that it's data coming into the system is an input. So in our game console, pressing A on the gamepad sends information or data to our computer to say the player wants to jump. The computer processes that, so it works out what it's going to do with that data. So in this case it's going to change the height and the direction of the player when they do a jump, and then the output is going to be this. It's the actual showing the results of that processing that the computer does. So we've already explored how to do that in Scratch. If you haven't and you want to do that, I'll put a link to that video at the top of this screen. But we're going to focus on using variables in Python, and input, process, output in Python for this example. So what we've got here, let's just make this maximize this so we can see it. This is a Python program, hopefully that you've seen before. It's just a standard program to set up our turtle graphics. We've created a variable called side, and in that we've stored a number 100, and our turtle is going to draw a line in each of these lines here of side pixels long. So in that case 100. So in other words, if I run it, that's what we get. So you've seen that program before. Now what we want to do is kind of get this program running in a slightly different way so that it can change what it does based on what data the user puts into the program. In other words, allow the user to actually choose what size they want the square to be. So we need to make a couple of changes to our program for that to happen. We're going to use a command now called input, and it works like this. First of all, we need a variable in which we're going to store what the user types in. So I think what we'll do to begin with, we'll put a prompt onto our screen. Print, please enter the length of the square of the side, I should put, because that's a bit clearer, isn't it? Okay, so that's the prompt that's going to appear on the screen that tells the user that we want them to enter a number. So now they're going to have to type in a number which we need to store inside a variable. So we create our variable first, side equals, and instead of this time giving it a number, a fixed number, we're going to put input. And in fact what we're going to do, well, in fact I'll show you what we're going to do, because I was going to give a little spoiler, but we'll do this anyway as it is. So side input, and then what it will do is it will take whatever values the user's put in and put it inside side, and then each of the forward lines will make the turtle travel that number of pixels. So if the user's put in 50, it'll go 50. If they put in 70, it'll go 70, or 100, it'll go 100. Now this program actually isn't going to work, and I'll show you why. Let's just run it. And so we can see here at the bottom, please enter the length of the side. So if I put in a number, just put in 100, and it doesn't like that. It's come up with all kinds of horrible stuff, all kind of errors, something called a type error. Now this is one thing that we learn about computers very quickly, is that they're stupid. They're certainly not as intelligent as you or I. If we look at that program, or we look at what the user's typed in, I typed in a number, you or I would recognize that as a number, but Python doesn't. It just sees it as text, so it can't work out what it means. So if I put in 50, I might as well type in XYZ or 1, 2, 3, or put 5 asterisks in there, because Python doesn't understand it, because we haven't told Python that we're typing in a number. So what I actually need to do is say in this line here that I want whatever we put into side to be a number or an integer. An integer is like a whole number. This sounds really confusing, don't worry about it, it's dead simple. Let's show you how it works. So I'm going to put side equals int, so that means an integer, so side will equal an integer, and the user will input that. We need to put a bracket there, so now I've got 2 open brackets, so we need to put 2 close brackets. So now let's look at that, what that line means. It means create a variable called side, and store a number in there inside that the user will input. So let's stop the program and run it, and this time it's doing the exact same thing, but enter the length of the side, and now let's type in 100, and that's not worked, which is a bit unusual. That's a bit strange. Let's save that and run it again. I think it's just because I vanished the window, so let's just do 100, and then what you should see, there we go, the program, it's worked this time. In fact, just so you can see that it works, and I'm not just making it up, let's run it a final time. Say, right, so enter the length of the side, and we'll put in 200, and this time it's drawn a bigger square. Yeah, so let's see if we can move that there, just so you've got a better view of it again. Right, one more time, save, run, and this time I'm going to put 350 in, much bigger, and you can see I've typed in 350, and the side of the square is even bigger. So in other words, what it's doing is it's taking the input from the user, there, input, and then it's got to do something with it. It's processing, it's working out what it wants to do with that, so it's going to make it an integer for one thing, and then it's going to do the output, which is to draw the line as the users are, or draw the shape that the users are asked to draw. So it's actually going to move forward that number of pixels. So you've got an example of input, process, and output happening in there. So that's the important thing to remember. In the variables work, it works exactly the same as variables did before, but if you're dealing with a number in Python and you want the user to enter a number or something the computer recognizes as a number, you must define it as an integer first. So side equals int input. Okay, and if we don't put that line in, the computer just thinks it's text and it won't treat it like a number. So there you go, you are smarter than a computer because you know what a number is. So hope that makes sense. Have a little go at this program yourself. What you could do is try doing again some different shapes, and maybe have it so that it can draw a number of shapes one after another, perhaps, so you can include these lines a few times and get the user to put in a different value each time. So have fun and see how you get on, and I'll see you in the next video.